All right, I just pressed record, so what the heck? We might as well get going here today. It's good to see everyone. This is I think this is the week 5 or 6 of the lockdown. I think there's some encouraging news out there. I got an email from ClubLink that they are planning on opening their Ontario courses on May the 12th or around there. So maybe there's signs that the zombie apocalypse is starting to come to a conclusion. It's been great. I think this is our 5th call. These Zoom calls. To me, kind of the idea was let's empower golf professionals and coaches. Let's bring everyone together so we can learn from each other how we can survive and thrive during and after this lockdown. So I'm really grateful that you've all come together again this week, and there's some newcomers here. So welcome to the call. So Todd Graves last week, he said we need a name for things. So I came up with this name for this, and it's a working title. Okay, I call it Coaches Coaching Coaches. George said the other day when I ran it by him, he says it's alliteration. So and it was I like that. We'll see him go with that. But anyways, I want to let you know that I record these calls and I put them on my YouTube channel. And I listened yesterday to the chat we had last week with Todd of Graves Golf Academy. And there's a ton of really great information in there. So about how to create a successful coaching business. And there's going to be a lot more important, really good information today. So if you want to revisit that, you can just go to my YouTube channel and the recording of the call is there. Now, one of the things in Todd's message last week was about clarifying your message and your market and who you are marketing to and what are the benefits you're bringing to them. So today I thought it'd be a really nice follow-up to Todd's call by talking to 2 people who've gone narrow and deep. And that's Sean Casey and TJ Atley. And they've built very successful coaching businesses focused on competitive juniors. And I'm going to ask them the how and why of focusing on that niche and what we can learn from them. And so just like last week, I'm just going to get rolling and ask them some questions and invite you to ask and reflect on what your learning is around this. And again, the whole thing is about how we can learn from each other. So just before we get going, also you have to do our little reminder. The best thing to just cut down on background noise is to mute yourself when you're not speaking. And if you go into the manage participants, you can it's either that or chat. I'm never the greatest technical guy, but I think it's chat that you can go and you can raise your hand. Anyways, you guys will figure this out on which way you can raise hands, and you can even just raise your hand the regular way, and we'll get to you. And what else is there? So, but I do have the chat thing enabled this week. So there we go. Okay, so let's get going. So first I'm going to introduce the 2 key folks I'm going to talk to today, and then we'll get right into it. So Sean Casey, he's the Director of Instruction at, oh, that was cool. That's my clipboard falling over. Sean's the Director of Instruction at Glen Abbey, and he's the head coach of the U19 Junior Boys Competitive Program. And in 2016, he was named the Teacher of the Year. I'm still laughing about this. This is great. Teacher of the Year for junior golfers by the PGA of Ontario. And he was also selected Teacher of the Year by both the PGA of Ontario and Canada in 2009. And a number of Sean's players have graduated to NCAA teams, and he hails from New Brunswick. Now, TJ Atley, she's the founder of the Zone Golf Academy in Vancouver, and she's a life member of the LPGA. And she's a real player. She played in the 86 U.S. Open and 3 Du Maurier Classics, and she's placed more than 150 players on golf scholarships in the U.S. and Canada. And so I'm going to start with Sean. And Sean, first thing I want to recognize, you're from New Brunswick from Atlantic Canada, and I just want you to know, feel the pain of people from Atlantic Canada with the tragedy that happened the other day. So just wanted to pass that on and let you know we're thinking about folks from Nova Scotia and people from Atlantic Canada in this time.
Yeah, crazy situation. Still learning more about it, obviously. But my sister-in-law actually graduated with the killer, the Gabriel Wortman.
Wow.
They were in the same grad class in Riverview High School. But yeah, crazy.
Well, strange times we're in for sure. So, all right. So Sean, what brought you into coaching? I know you grew up playing in New Brunswick, but how come coaching?
Well, I did my apprenticeship with the PGA just in the pro shops, like a lot of us probably did. And when I finished my apprenticeship and graduated university, I moved to Ontario and just had I don't know how to explain it. I just always wanted to work at Glen Abbey. Growing up in New Brunswick, it was watching the PGA Tour come to Canada and play at Glen Abbey. I always had a sort of thing for it. So I drove to Ontario after graduating university, and I was fortunate to get hired there about 7 months after I moved to Ontario. So yeah, I really didn't have a lot of a teaching experience, just teaching after my pro shop shifts, sort of here and there. But I definitely enjoyed my few lessons after my pro shop shift more than my pro shop shifts. So I knew I had to try to get out and spend more time on the range. I really enjoyed teaching. So I was fortunate to get into full time at Glen Abbey in the end of 2000.
So you also had the good fortune of meeting and working with Sean Foley. Now, what were some of the things that you learned from Foley?
Yeah, he had been hired earlier that same year, and definitely, for me, one of the most fortunate things I think that's happened in my life was being able to work alongside him for 6 or 7 years before he moved to Florida. I mean, we really could do a whole session on him. He's a special, very unique character, and I really could go on and on about what I learned from him, but he definitely helped sort of inspire me, I guess you'd say, to be a better teacher. I was just kind of getting into it, really didn't know what I was getting into. So to sort of work alongside him, his passion and desire to help people just sort of spilled into me, I guess you'd say. So he really has had a great influence on me developing a drive to really want to just sort of an insatiable drive to get better. I remember my first year, to put it simply, I thought I was pretty good. I learned so much. And I said to him, I said, I think I'm going to go back to New Brunswick. I've learned so much. I feel like I need to bring all this knowledge back to New Brunswick and help people back there. And he just kind of laughed at me because he's just like, Casey, you don't know anything. Like I was feeling like I was so good now. And he's just like, what are you thinking? He's like, you don't know anything. And he just he would do that to me. But looking back now, I agree. I mean, I really didn't know much. I'd only been teaching a few months at that point. And so, yeah, he always knew how to kind of put me in my place and sort of create more fire to keep going and dig deeper.
Yeah, I think what he did was, a friend calls to me, he calls it loving you fiercely.
Yeah.
AKA kicking you in the pants.
Yeah, he definitely was that for me, for sure. He was that guy that sort of told you what you needed to hear, not what your ego really wanted to hear, but definitely had your best interests at heart. He was always trying to help you, honestly.
Yeah. So Sean, one of the things that we were talking about coming into this was that area of focus, clarifying your message, knowing who your market is. So how did you come to focus on juniors?
Well, I mean, I helped Sean with his Elite Junior program. I mean, it wasn't much back then. I mean, from the standpoint of what it included, I mean, we basically lined up all the kids on the driving range, and we had those 2 big white box V1s on the range that stood about 5 feet tall, and kind of took turns bringing the kids down to the big V1 machine. And getting them on the video, and one of us would walk the line and the other would run the machine. And, you know, some good players came out of that program, Mike Liggett being one of them on the PGA Tour now. But really there wasn't much to the program except just line the kids up every week and bring them down in the machine and help them with their swing. So when Sean left and teaching was kind of evolving into coaching, I just tried to carry the torch and build upon what we had there, and sort of build out a full coaching program for all kids of all ages and skill levels.
Yeah. So Sean, I'm going to bring in TJ in a minute, but I want to ask you, so you coached at one time, you coached, all people, adults, kids, whatnot, but why the focus on juniors? Why build that business?
I mean, I don't know why I just was drawn to kids, and not only just kids in general, Tim, but for me, I seem to resonate with high school boys. I think maybe we can all relate to just people we're comfortable teaching for some reason. Sean Foley always said he was a chameleon. He always felt like he could teach anybody. I never really felt that way. I felt like it took me a lot of work and effort to teach people that I didn't, I'm not great with 4 to 6 year olds. We have coaches at Glen Abbey that are just awesome at getting down on the knees and really working with 4 to 6 year old kids. And I was just never really comfortable with that age group, for example. So for me, it was just sort of fit me that for some reason I was able to connect well with high school boys in particular. So that's really been my focus for a long time. I feel like I say, it kind of chose me. But most of my teaching in the run of a week is my 20 boys in my high school program.
Cool. All right. So TJ, I want to ask you, what brought you into coaching? You're obviously a very strong player with your playing record. But how'd you get into coaching?
Well, it was the last day after university, and I became a head pro in Chicago. So I was kind of like thrown into it as a 22-year-old. So that was, my husband at the time he was like the main head pro. And then I went to Chicago, and that was it. So I kind of got thrown into it because I wanted to play the tour. So I'm just like, okay, I need to teach to make money to go to November qualifying school to make the tour. So that's how I got thrown into it, to make money.
Okay. So bring us to how you came to develop, how did you come to focus on juniors?
Yeah. So it was, I think about it, like I came back to Canada in 87. My first kid went to BYU in 1988 on full ride. It was a girl. My next kid was 1989, Neil Bidwell, who's a CPGA member. He went to Purdue on full ride in 89. So it wasn't so I got like a ton of kids over that time, mainly Caucasian boys, until 2011. And 2011, I got my first real serious Chinese girl. And the parents said, we want a full program, we'll pay you whatever. And then that's when I ended up having a full-time mental coach. And I have a fitness trainer and all that stuff. And so basically it was like 2011.
So you saw a real opportunity there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what are the challenges that you face coaching juniors versus adults? What's different about it?
Okay, well, I would say, so I'm just writing my master's now. So I'm doing a ton of research, 4 hours a day. And the main difference between juniors and adults is juniors, you're working on agility, which is basically flexibility and strength in the muscle. And with adults, you're working on flexibility. And then with juniors, you're working on more coordination and muscle patterns. And with adults, you're working on balance because they have no balance.
Well, what's the difference in the way they learn, their receptivity to being coached?
Oh, I think for sure, like, I think for sure it's all about the play. You have to make it fun. Like they want to come to golf. Golf is even my adults call my indoor place, which you've been to, Tim, golf is called the fun house.
Yeah. Did you worry that when you started to focus on juniors, that you're sort of leaving some business on the table by
Yes,
not
and
coaching?
so 100%, that's what happened. So we've actually created 12 new programs since last Friday. Eight of them are adults.
Okay.
And we created a brand new logo, and it's called the Canada Performance Academy. So new logo, new website, everything, and it's launched. So Zone Golf Academy will now be our junior academy, and then Canada Performance Academy will be our post-grad and our adult program and our parent taught.
Cool. All right. So, but you started with the juniors and now you've developed that business more. Okay. So,
Yeah, and we're also designing a corporate one.
okay.
Whole corporate thing. Yeah, so that's being finished in 2 days.
Okay. From a business standpoint, when you were developing your business for your juniors and moving that along, what were the business advantages of focusing on juniors at that time? And yeah, just what were those advantages?
The main thing is they have time, they want to go to college, and they'll pay the money. So my adult program is like $2,500 and they get X. But our most expensive junior program now this year in Canada will be $25,000.
Okay. All right. Now, Sean, coming back to you, what are the business advantages for you as a coach of focusing on juniors?
Well, I mean, a lot of our kids, we've got 110 kids in our competitive program, and they're all on monthly, they sort of auto payments. So, we wanted to build a program for kids that compete and play golf on a regular basis, and they're not all the same. So if you're in a 10 to 12 age group category, maybe it's $300 a month and you get 1 or 2 lessons a month plus your weekly group. And some of the programs are maybe $400 a month and you get 2 lessons a month plus your weekly group. And then my program's $500 a month and they get a weekly lesson and the group, where they can all see each other for a couple hours and do some competing and so on. So, we have 110 kids on all these auto payments. So obviously it's nice for the coaches. It kind of creates a little bit of a salary.
Right.
We've got 5 junior coaches and some of them are teaching this age group girls. I'm teaching that age group boys, trying to divvy it up a little bit amongst us and then build a schedule around it. And then you kind of know going into the year, you're going to at least make this and you're going to have these clients. You're going to schedule those kids first for their private times. And then adults and people coming in to fix their over the top or whatever, kind of fill gaps. And you kind of slide in your adults. For me, I teach 2 adult lessons a day at 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And then I prepare and I start teaching my kids at 3:30 till dark.
Cool. So I want to remind everyone that on the call that if you want to ask a question, make a comment, you could do the raise hand thing or just send a private chat message or just say, hey, Tim, I just want to ask something. But it was interesting, Sean, what you're just talking there. It made me think of what Todd Graves was talking about last week in that you want to create a predictable business, a sustainable business. And I think that by having that focus, that allows you to do that. Could you just reflect on that a bit?
Yeah, I think it's, TJ kind of said it. I mean, you've got these families and kids and they have a desire and a need and maybe an end goal of playing college golf. So you're trying to really help walk them through it. And for me, I'm looking for that 3 to 4 year commitment from my kids when they come in grade 9 or 10, they enter into the program. And for me, it's trying to round out the program and deliver on and manage the expectations. I think when I started the program years ago and kind of built it into what it is now, in the early going, I would lose some kids every year because I wasn't meeting the expectations. I might say, hey, I've got this holistic junior program and it includes nutrition, mental, and so on. But, they weren't too happy when they found out that the mental component was like a 1-hour guest speaker once. I had to be more clear on what am I providing on the mental side. If I'm going to say it includes mental coaching, I knew I had to do more than a 1-hour guest speaker. So I was just trying to really lay out very specifically in a 60-page document that I give them when they come in that lays out to the finest detail of exactly what's included in the program. If there is any additional charges above and beyond the 500 a month. It's very laid out, but for the most part, I'm able to include everything. And I'll just quickly tell you how I do that. 2 of the payments a year, the April check and the November check, those 2 $500 payments. Actually, I just upped them to 600 last year because I need a little bit more money to play with. So I take all of that money, $600 from November and April, times 20 kids, gives me whatever, 22 grand. I use that to buy the golf bags, pay for the mental coaching, get them their stats membership on Decade, get them 4 Adidas shirts and a jacket, and so on and so forth. Bring in a 3D coach to do a 3D lesson once a month. So with Braden Kreiderman, we bring him in once a month, throw them on to 3D. So I pay for Braden's time and use of his 3D machine. So I'm able to kind of make the program holistic and include everything I want to include by having that 22 grand every year to kind of play with.
Cool. Again,
That way I'm going to the parents going, hey, I got this idea. I want to, and asking them for a little more money. I used to do that and it doesn't work very well. It's a pain in the butt trying to collect the extra funds to bring in a speaker. You know, we brought in Scott Fawcett last year. Whatever I want to do, whoever I want to bring in, I've got some money to play with.
Cool. How does that land for you, TJ? And then I have a question that Brandon Richardson's asked, but TJ, how did what Sean was talking about, that business piece, land for you?
Yeah, so we have 75 kids that come every single week. So unlike Sean, almost all of our classes are small group. And then we get to, like, I have an indoor studio, we teach at the range, and we also teach on the golf course. And then they get only like 4 or 6 hours of private class per year. And then all except for 2 pay me by September 15th. So like I told you last time I was on, like, we're doing the early bird. So that early bird it's getting sent out today, and they have until May 10th to pay me. So then I know I have $300,000 to do it. So we get paid up front.
Okay, again, but that creates predictability in your business for sure. Yeah. So Brandon Richardson is asking, so TJ, for you, what are some of your key marketing strategies in terms of as Todd was saying, having a very clear message,
yeah,
and how you market to your market?
Yeah, well, I can tell you, after dealing with a market person the last 2 weeks, and I was on a call at 6 o'clock this morning for 2 hours, I'm not doing a very good job on my website. So it's getting revamped. But we wrote the standardized golf test, which is a copyright. So the kids get badges depending on what level. They are all put into a house. So they're put into earth, fire, wind, or water. Every time in September, we give them a whiteboard. And as a team, they get to design their own golf ball marker. So once they have it all nice on a big whiteboard, I take a photo and I get them manufactured. And then that's their golf ball marker for the year. So that's kind of fun. With the standardized golf test, they actually have a test. So the 4th week of every single month, they're allowed to test to their next level. So it's like level 16. So it's an actual schedule and a program. And the 3rd week of every single month, we have points. So they can do for their points. So they're individuals, there's a small group of maybe 2 in their team. They go for their house, or sometimes I put 2 houses together. So that whole week, we have points, and then there's a party at the end of the year.
So how do you reach your audience? How do you reach prospects? How do you do business development?
We have WeChat. We also do a $250 gift card. So that's brand new this year. So you guys are going to die of how many education consulting companies we have in Richmond. So Richmond is now what, 350,000 people? We have 200 companies that offer tutor service. So we've now created a $250 gift card that's getting in the mail. So whoever owns that company gets a 1-hour free lesson, and they get a $250 gift card per month to give away as a prize.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So Sean, how do you do your business development?
Um, we don't do a lot of outside marketing, I guess, like everybody these days. I guess use social media a little bit to kind of just let people know what you're doing and what's going on. I don't feel like we do a great job of that, but I think the main thing is our programs are sort of pretty much full to the level we want. We can only handle so many kids sort of on the property. So I think I think it just sort of grows internally. I mean, we mostly teach kids from Oakville and Burlington. So the kids tell their friends and it just sort of feels that way.
Yeah.
But
So
is that what you're asking? Like, how do we get the word out and try to get?
how do you again, coming back to Todd again last week, creating a predictable business, you always have to have business be developing it. How do you keep things coming into the funnel to create that business?
I guess for us, I mean, in 2011, the GAO created the Golf Developmental Centers, and we were part of that pilot project. And they recommended you build this, like you said, funnel or pyramid, whatever you want to look at it. And we kind of drew it out as like the base of the pyramid was Future Links. They could come in, take a 4-week program with kids their age, little dabble into golf, maybe do a golf camp. Those are Future Links programs. And then if they ask and say, well, we'd like to put our kid into an ongoing program, we have that. We have ongoing programs that are every week for all kids, boys and girls, recreational and competitive. So we've got a program for everybody, whether they're on the recreational side or the competitive side. If they want girls only, they can go girls only. So there's, just trying to make sure you have a program for everybody. And fortunately, the Future Links side for us, we have another sort of 110 kids over there, kids that also come weekly, but they just come in a group. There's no privates with that. That is a little bit more like line 6 kids up with a coach, 6-to-1 ratio, different age groups. And that's a little more fun, hit some balls and learn some skills. And if they ask, say, I'd like to maybe get my kid into playing a tournament, as soon as that discussion comes up and they're interested in competition, we recommend they shift over to our competitive side, which includes more private lessons and so on. So our feeder system is all the programs that are non-competitive programs that aren't as expensive and little barriers to entry are lower. And we have a lot of them that we just kind of pluck over to the competitive side.
Okay. And so John Poole's got a question. He goes, Sean, what are 1 or 2 things that you find that enhance the learning process for your juniors?
For my juniors specifically, that I coach, Tim, this, like they all do a personality profile. So, all my kids, I have like a chart and I know whether they're primary blue energy, red, yellow, or green. I know their secondary energy. I know their preferences to communication. I know how they don't want to be communicated with. I know what motivates them. So they do a personality profile, and then I get a copy of that profile. It really helps me know my kids at a more in-depth level, so I can speak to them in their language. And that's really probably the biggest thing for me, and how I personally, as a coach, connect with my boys and make sure that I'm treating them as an individual.
Cool. So you learn their learning styles, and then you cater your messages and how you relate to them through that. That's very cool. TJ, so what are the 1 or 2 things that you've found to enhance the learning process for your juniors?
Well, I love what Sean just said. I think that's like amazing. Well, all of our kids have a binder. And so we have an assessment that they have to do at every level. So there's 18 different levels. So like one of the things that they do, even if they're 5 years old, we help them write it, is how do you want your parents to treat you, and how do you want us to treat you? So they have to write in their binder after every class. So it's really like school, so that we can have like a written thing for them. So it's more like a journal. So basically, so we're there when they're writing their journal. So we're just, so it's interesting. Like I'll go, what did you learn about class today? Oh, I really liked that you drew the blue line of where my club should be. You know what I mean? Oh, visual learner, something like that.
All right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
also as a coach, I find that like I'm a consummate note taker. I've always been like that. But when people take notes, then they have something concrete to follow up on. Because I don't know what, there's been some science that after a certain period of time, we just lose so much information if we don't write it down and we don't integrate it. I'm going to ask Mike March. Mike, I'm sorry, I might put you on the spot here. You've worked with a lot of juniors. How does, in terms of what Sean and TJ are talking about from that sort of that business standpoint of what it does for you as a coach and keeping the lights on, which is a phrase you use from time to time?
I use that phrase every time we talk, isn't it? That's like, that 1 and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's keeping his Netflix going.
There you go.
But I think the big thing is that if you're going to survive as a coach, if you don't have a team of players to be working with, you're going to have a hard time making it year to year. On one-offs, 3 lessons of threes with adults or whatever it is. So if you can have a core group of kids, and I think the big thing is that, like Sean talked about with Future Links, having those programs that are a lesser fee, that maybe are groups, maybe are once a week. If you can keep those kids interested and then they want to actually start to develop after that, well then, if those kids are 5 or 6 or 7 years old and they're going to play junior golf till they're 18, and if you provide a program that exceeds their parents' expectations, well, all of a sudden now you've got a client probably for 10 years. So in terms of having that predictable income, now you're in a position to have that business model where, you're going to have you're going to lose some kids here and there, and you're going to gain some kids. But if you know that for the next 5 or 6 years that you're probably going to have 60 or 50 or 80 or 100 kids in your program, well, then you can start to bring mental coaches on, fitness people if you need them, nutrition experts, and have good people there. Like Sean said, I know with a lot of programs that promise those things, that it turns out to be that. Somebody comes out, a mental coach comes out, one Saturday morning every 6 weeks or something, and watches the kids and talks to the odd kid here or there, or talks about breathing, and then you don't see them for another 8 weeks. And does that meet parents' expectations of what the product you're delivering? So, I think that's the big thing. You get kids, you try to keep them motivated, whether it's, one time I know I was involved a little bit with She Swings, She Scores here in Ontario, where, we set up Golf Ontario at some arenas where the girls were playing hockey tournaments and trying to get girls interested in hitting golf balls in the arena, and seeing if you could maybe, get girls clubs out of that at different facilities. So, just different ways of drawing kids, whether you draw them individually or in groups like that. It's propagating that business. And if your junior program, if you're losing more kids than you're gaining, there's something wrong. But if your attrition rate is 5% or 10% or whatever it is, but you keep building on that year after year, you're providing a good service. And if you don't, people will go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's really, really true. In so many businesses, there's the problem with over-promising and under-delivering.
Yeah.
And you just can't build a business where you do that. So they have to have something concrete, and it's also working with those who you really relate with. And I always talk about with people I'm coaching on that mental side of golf is, what is your why? And I liked how Sean said that he naturally felt an affinity to teenage boys. He just really likes engaging with them. And I think that's so important, is to know, like, where do we feel our most natural place? Where do we give the best of ourselves? I think that's really, really important. I do have before I get to another piece, a business piece that John, and I'm probably going to massacre this pronunciation of your last name, John, Gutierrez. He says, I think this is for you, TJ. When you are doing early bird billing, is there a reimbursement for students who are maybe sick or having an emergency, or is this a price to try and make all classes?
Oh, any type of, we're 100% flexible on every single class. So if they're away on camp or if they're sick or whatever, 100% they can have makeup class.
Okay. All right.
The
All
other
right.
thing that we designed for this summer is Saturday afternoon is parent and kid play. So even if you're 5 years old, you can play from 50 yards and in, and it's a 9-hole go, and then you have food afterwards, and then you have prizes. So,
Cool.
and the other thing is we have the Grizzly Golf Tour. So we created a league for kids aged, new to golf, basically for 15 and under. So we've had that since 2016, but we're now calling them, instead of the tour, we're now going to call them Grizzly Golf Days. So for our new program, those are running on Sunday mornings, and the parent drops the kid off at the pitch and putt, and then they stay with us the whole time. And then we can fit 10 kids in the van, and then they pick them back up at 2:00 in the afternoon in my studio. So it's a program that's already now included in the price as of this year.
All right. Okay. I'm going to ask anyone else to chime in here about having that very clear message of knowing who are you marketing to and what is your message. Anyone else want to chime in on that? Particularly, we've got a number of people here who on the call who are followers of Extraordinary Golf and Fred Shoemaker, and Fred has it's kind of a distinct way he does things. I'd invite maybe John or George or Brandon or Megan, Dave perhaps, to talk about how they market their message to the people they're going after, and not trying to be all things to all people. How about you, George? You want to take a stab at that one? Unmute yourself.
Okay, Tim, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. I think Fred does a lot of things a little bit different than most, and I think his marketing has always been sort of an internal thing, word of mouth. I've never seen an advertisement from Fred or Extraordinary Golf. So I think he creates, over the period of years, he's created a lot of excitement from people he has, and they in turn bring other people in. Again, I think for him that works. I'm sure for a lot of other people that wouldn't work, but it's certainly a different way of doing it.
But what about you, George? You give a lot of lessons. What's the message that you're putting out?
Pretty much the same as Fred's. I mean, I don't really advertise. I have mostly word of mouth students that come back and bring other students. And for me, that's fine.
Cool. Okay. And John Poole, I mean, how about you? What's the message that you try to convey in terms of what you offer as a coach?
It's certainly that it is not advertising. It is word of mouth, and it is offering them something that's a little different than they may have been exposed to before, and making notes of that. I do send. I do junior league, so I do send something out to the parents about what I offer, and it's certainly it's an environment without judgments, which has kind of been favorable to parents relative to other sports coaching that they're exposed to, and a safe environment for learning. So I talk about learning, and which is something that you don't hear a lot about in the world that we live in sometimes. And that's all. I'm a soft presenter of myself.
What does the soft presenter mean?
I mean, I'm not going hard after them. I just give them a little message and let them figure it out,
Okay, cool. I wanted to ask Megan Chapman if she's still there. She's turned off her. Oh, she's still there. Great. Megan, you and I have had conversations over the years that we've known each other about different approaches to instruction. One is kind of a teaching model where you take your information and kind of give it to somebody, and they learn it, versus coaching, so to me that incorporates putting out a different message to your possible market. What's the marketing message that you try to convey? Hello, Mac.
Hi.
I've been exploring that for a long time now, and I feel I've just kind of started to put a name to, I think, the environment that I'm looking to create, and I've just started to call it conscious.
I don't know about.
Just one second. Call it conscious golf, and yeah, for me, I guess I'm trying to market in a way for me that would be, just like John would say, unique kind of to the industry, in that it doesn't revolve around sort of fixing anything. It's just about uncovering sort of our innate brilliance that already resides in us. And yeah, I guess that's how I would describe it. And kind of.
Well, I think that's really cool, because again, to reflect back on it, what Todd was saying is define what find clarity of what you're offering and who's your market. And he said you could name it anything, but I think what the key piece he was saying was that that you come up with something and then you have a story around it, but it's very specific, and sometimes it could be really intriguing. And I think what you've come up with there about conscious golf, I think if I heard it correctly, to me that hits it perfect, because people would go like, "Oh, what do you mean by that?" Or what's that really about? So you intrigue people, and then there's like an entree for you to tell the story about what it's about. How's that land for you?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like for a long time, I was trying to be too many things to too many people out of fear of being judged and criticized as being different. So when it finally hit me that that's not going to work anymore, and I got to embrace who I am and what I feel to be true for me and the people I work with, I'm excited to kind of go down that road wholeheartedly.
That's cool. Yeah, well, that's cool. I think I just hear this message all the time. Find your market, go narrow and deep on that, be the king in your niche, which I think that's what TJ and Sean Casey have done so well around that, and thus they've built some pretty strong businesses doing that. And that to me is a core piece around coaching in terms of like in my own work as a coach, but I'm also a business person. And what I've learned is that, and I'm picking up through people I talk to, like Ted, and books I read, and is in that very much I've been operating as a technician. I've been working in the business rather than on the business. And so that's where I struggle, and that's why this pandemic has brought that piece to a higher consciousness, is creating greater structure around how I market, what's my message, who am I marketing to? Because I think like Megan was just saying, the tendency sometimes is to trying to be all things to all people. I used to worry that I was leaving business on the table, but by going narrow and deep, I'm able to reach people who are more aligned with what I'm offering and who I am. And so it also creates a greater sense of ease. Sometimes when I would see people or hear them go, "Oh, I should be doing that," but then so I'd have this sense of unease. But now that I'm getting more focused on what I'm offering, I don't have that dis-ease as much anymore. And it's like, okay, no, I'm in my lane. That's where I need to focus. And so it's easier to create a business plan that's focused on that lane. And it's just easier to know who my market is and where to go after. So I want to pull Brandon Richardson here in a minute, because he also asked a really good question that I'm going to put to both TJ and Sean. In terms of your business relationship with your facilities, do you rent, lease, or how's it work? TJ, can you go first?
Yep, renting.
Okay.
But a new company just bought all the strata. Tim's been in my place, all the strata, and my place is 3,600 square feet, and they want me to buy it And Tim, guess how much they want for my place?
I don't know Vancouver real estate.
1.7 million.
Holy cow.
Yeah, so I can't pay for 1.7 million. So yeah, so yeah, and then I rent at the range. So the range has been open 31 years. I've been there 30. So and then I have a relationship with Green Acres Golf Course, which is a public course 300 yards away from that range. It took me 15 years to get in there of asking politely, and now we're on year 6 for this summer. So no other academy is allowed to go in there, which is interesting, but I didn't know that. But so yeah, so they have a junior membership only with us.
All right. And Sean, what's your, you operate out of Glen Abbey, which is a ClubLink facility. What's your business relationship with ClubLink?
It is we've got 11 coaches and they're all on a split, 70-30 split. So 30% goes to ClubLink. I've got sort of a role at the academy of overseeing the academy as the director of instruction. So that's sort of a side gig to me, you know, coaching my kids and being the director of instruction as well. So I manage the 30%. It's last year would have been a little under $1 million. So, you know, I'll take that few $100,000 and manage that for the academy. So I hired an administrator, the shuttle drivers, buy the Adidas clothes for all the coaches. They get a meal a day, whatever. So I manage that pool of 30% for ClubLink, and they expect me to give them and make sure I cordon off 10% for them. So I play with 20% of the 30, so they can make 10%.
Okay, cool. All right. Brandon, I wanted to bring you in here in terms of what was the evolution of your coaching and your marketing message? Did you have at one stage, were you kind of going after everybody and focused it down, or just how did you come to market the way that you do now?
Sure. I started out with junior golf as a coach right off the bat. I worked for the guy that used to teach me, and he plugged me into their junior program. So I was running those things for a while and naturally gravitated towards that. And then as I got older and started running my own coaching business, I shifted over into doing more adult programs and things of that nature, just because of where I was. So when I started going down to Palm Springs and was very ambitious about doing some junior programs and never got them to stick, I'm still interested in trying to get some going, but it was mostly grandkids that I was working with, and never got a foothold on the local market. So it was mostly adults and golf schools and people that attend those sorts of things. So this year was like the first year where I really bailed on trying to do any junior stuff, and I had some medical issues on top of that I had to reduce my hours out of necessity. So that was an easy one to go. I'm not going to put any energy into that. It hasn't done anything yet for me. So down here, really, in terms of the bottom line part of it, I always enjoy whoever I work with and watching their development and what they get out of it. But for the bottom line part of it, it wasn't something that I needed to hang on to. Okay,
cool. In the 10 minutes that we have left, thank you very much, Brandon. I hope you're feeling better too there, big guy. I want to ask a couple of people. I want to ask James Hutchison, Meg, what are you doing? Like, what opportunities have come apparent to you during this lockdown? This, initially we all kind of felt, in many ways, most of us anyways, feel like we're kind of shut down and like, oh my God, how am I going to keep the lights on, if you will. So James, is there any sort of opportunities or things you're doing now that you weren't doing before?
Sorry, Tim, do you mean like growing my business wise.
Yeah. What kind of things what things are you focusing on now that you may not have been before? Like, for sake of example, I've been looking at doing webinars, but I've kind of kept them on the back burner, and I've brought those to the front burner because now I see through Zoom and different avenues there's some opportunities there. So, and sometimes that's what happens when we're faced with challenges. So I'm just wondering, what for you have you maybe brought to the front burner, or some ideas that you've now pursued that you didn't look at before?
Yeah, for me, for sure, after last week, especially trying to just clarify what I do specifically, because I am, I'm at a private club. So I do have to teach everybody, and, I do all the admin for the academy as well. So I think for me, it's been interesting to try to distill and have that kind of 20-second pitch of what I do if someone asks me, So I've kind of just been writing some stuff down and trying to see, because I really don't think I have a niche right now. So trying to see some directions I can go in, and then doing some reading and research, and trying to find that niche for me is kind of where I'm focusing my energies.
Cool. Yeah, I spent the last couple of days doing that. Like, what are my core messages, and clarifying it. That is there anyone else who's done some work like that too? If I'll pick someone, but is there anyone who's feels that they've really been doing some interesting work around some new opportunities, finding out what their market is, clarifying the message?
Yeah, I've done obviously a big pivot to online stuff. It's in its infancy. I've done things over the years, just here and there, but I'm pretty much putting all my attention into that right now, and foresee myself doing more of that in the future, even when the golf courses open up, which I just got word California's looking to open them up with massive restrictions. But yeah, I've created some programs and need to sit down and kind of figure out how to keep developing those and marketing those and get the word out on them. It's all kind of a new learning curve. So even teaching people how to use a camera. I gave a guy a golf lesson on FaceTime the other day, and it took us 10 minutes for him to get the camera in the right spot so I could see what he was doing. But yeah, it's just, I can't do this. Now what's possible?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so for me, I've been thinking as indicating a few minutes ago, I was thinking of doing webinars, but I just wasn't getting to it, which is pretty typical, I think, for me and a lot of people. It's like, but it's not until there's a real challenge that sometimes these things get pushed forward. And so I just found that I was feeling more and more comfortable in using Zoom. I belong at Toastmasters. I belong in another organization, and this stuff is it's okay, and it seems to work. So I developed a speech at my Toastmasters group that I call Obedience Training for Your Brain. And then I rolled it out, and I created a webinar. I delivered it to some buddies. I test marketed it to some guys, got their feedback. And then I delivered it to the Southwestern Ontario chapter of the Canadian Society of Club Managers. And now I'm going to be delivering it to the PGA of Ontario next week. And I'm really seeing that there's a lot of opportunity here for doing workshops where I don't have to drive to the golf club, and the people, I think, what more importantly, they don't have to drive to their golf club, and it's very time efficient. So, and I'm also thinking, and this might be a bit of a dreaming, but I was talking with George, I don't have to worry about the customs agent at the U.S. border about whose job I'm going to take away by going down there, and I could be doing this work with all kinds of people. So I'm just wondering, in the few minutes we have left, is there anyone else who's kind of brought something to the front burner, or looking more at an opportunity they didn't see before this lockdown? Because I think these are the ways that we can often, adversity creates opportunity that creates new business.
Hi there. Oh, go
Go ahead. TJ, did you have something there?
Yeah. I wanted to say that with us creating summer camp, like everybody has summer camp. We did it since I was at Colchina in 1990, right? We always had juniors or whatever. So about 6 years ago, we have summer camp that was golf and Mandarin. And then we had golf and English. So that artist that was when you were at my place in November, that artist that came and did the picture, that did the painting
Yeah.
for you with the kids. I hired her full time. So we're starting summer camp on June 1st. The kids come from 9 until 2. And they learn academics, golf and fitness, and art. So all of us in my academy, we all have a degree. I have a degree in public speaking. Everybody else has a degree in business. So the golf coaches are actually running the academic piece. So we're not farming that out. And then we have 12 kids. So the parents are happy because they're dropping their kid off at 9 and they're picking them up at 2. So they're super happy. And so we're charging $400 and it's 12 kids per week. So basically we basically added a full on, well, last year we had art also, but this time we split it into 3.
Cool. All right. And that's really, really cool. I love the way that you're creating some interesting opportunities, but it's more than just golf. You know, like the art piece is huge, and almost like an academic side. That's really, really cool. And I think that's how you use golf in a way to learn how to become a fully rounded person. You know, as opposed to just fixated on the number on the card, which I think that's part of golf, but certainly isn't all of it. So I got 12:58, so I got 2 minutes left. So I want to thank TJ and Sean for coming on the call, helping us out with that. Hey, good to see your little guy, Sean. But thanks very much. A lot of really valuable information that you both shared for us. And like I said, I've recorded this. I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel, so anyone who wants to revisit it for some of the great learning and details, they could just go back to that. Also, as I said before, this is your call. Yeah, I'm facilitating it, but I want the content to come from you. So what topics are you looking for? Is there a particular speaker you want? Or do you feel that you have a message or an area of expertise that you think would be really helpful to this group of coaches in terms of developing our coaching, our skill that way, but also building our business? Because I think that's kind of the impetus for the call was like, how do we survive this virus and this lockdown that's kind of knocked a lot of us out from under our knees? And so I'm so grateful that you took the hour of your time to come and to be with us and share your learning. And it's a very rewarding experience for me. I'm learning a ton. And it's just also, it's great to be with a very caring and giving community of people like yourselves. So send me an email, send me a chat about how this is going for you and what you want to see going on. So again, thanks everyone. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week. See ya. Hey TJ, I want to. Oh, she's gone. Hey, thanks, Sean. That's awesome. What's your little guy's name?
This is David.
Hey, David. David, meet Mac. Mac, meet David. Maybe they could do their own Zoom call, Meg.
This is the new play date.
This is Mac. David, look.
Yeah. Are you guys doing any Zoom play dates?
We do FaceTime with family.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I find with this Zoom thing. It solves all the problems of geography. I have 4 siblings. You know, we got nieces and nephews and my mom. And it's like, now with Zoom, there's no excuse. Everyone can get together.
Yeah.
It's great that way. All right. So Meg, that was awesome as you were answering the question and Max all over your lap there. That was just awesome. So thanks for coming on the call. Good to see you again.
What's that?
Good to see you, Meg.
Yeah, good to see you. It's been a long time.
I know.
Oh, you guys have met?
Oh yeah.
We used to kind of like, well, see each other at conferences and stuff like that. Just when kids happen in life and.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, Sean, I met Meg through Extraordinary Golf,
Okay.
and yeah, so we're coming up to another time that we have some connection time, Meg.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be awesome. I'd love to do that.
All right, I look forward to it. So it just occurred to me, I haven't turned off this recording yet, so everyone will get to share in this wonderful kid time afterwards, and that's fine. All right. Good to see both of you. Take care. Thanks again, Sean. Bye-bye.
Oh, I know.